Sperm. So this is where this idea of virgin births comes from. Here in the Zadokite fragments and the Dead Sea Scrolls, he is the angel of disaster, the father of all evil, and the flatterer of God. He is said to have become a fallen angel. Okay, brothers and sisters, thanks again for joining me. This is part 2 in the series of the birth of our Messiah. If you have not seen part 1, make sure you go watch that first, because we're building upon knowledge and understanding from each part in the series. So if you watch part 2 or 3 or whatever before watching part 1 and 2, it'll just be confusing. And so I realized part 1, there was a lot of meat in there, a lot of stuff to probably review and go over, and maybe a little bit confusing. So if you haven't seen any of my other videos regarding the heavenly scroll and the heavens and the story that's told there, you can check out this video. The heavens declare the glory of the story. So make sure get that foundation, that grasp of what's going on and this stuff. And so right now we're going to lay the foundation on the seed of the woman and what that means. And so just kind of to recap from part 1, we looked at the thematic story that is told in the heavens, that has been told throughout all nations, throughout all religions and cultures, well, most anyway, in some variation, some form, one form or another. So this story is commonplace. You have the protagonist, the antagonist, the damsel in distress. A lot of us, I think, grew up with some of these stories, different concepts, the Princess Bride, marriage, right? We've seen these videos, these movies throughout our history, and we understand these stories and these concepts that are told in the heavenly scroll. So we went over the young and tender seed. It's Abib through the March-April season. So that's when we start to see Spica. We start to see the seed rising. We see the Virgin Mary rising with the seed in her hand, the branch, the Samek, and we saw that the Messiah is best represented by the bright morning star, Venus. That characteristic there is more representative of him than a lot of some of the other suggestions that have gone throughout our biblical history, at least in mine experience with Revelation 12 sign and representation of the sun and Jupiter and stuff like that. So, and I'm not saying it can't be those either. So, but this, I'm just presenting to you a new angle to look at and consider. So, in this next series here, this next part 2, we're going to look at the seed of the woman. We're going to look at that definition. What is the seed of the woman? Seed of the serpent. What does that mean? And what is the Son of God? So a lot of folks I know, at least from my background, when it talks about the seed of the woman, we automatically go, well, women don't have seed, so the seed was created in the virgin, right? So God is the seed, therefore he's the Son of God. So this concept, this idea that has been handed down to us from our church fathers, is that biblically accurate? Is there maybe another way to understand that? So that's what we're going to do in part 2, is kind of look at that seed of the woman concept. We'll look at the seed of the serpent concept, and then also, what is a son of God? What does it mean to be a son or daughter of Yahuwah, our Creator? So looking at this in Genesis 3:15, very familiar verse. If you've looked at any of these understandings of the seed of the woman, a lot of this concept, this idea, the seed of the virgin, Virgo, comes from this. Witness of the Stars, Bollinger's book writes about a lot of this stuff. and some of the places that he gets that from as well. So verse 15, it says, I will put enmity between thee and the woman. This is after the fall, so this is kind of like the curse. Essentially, it says, I'll put between thee and the woman. So he's talking to the serpent, talking to Eve, and between thy seed, the serpent seed, and her seed, the woman, Eve. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So I think most followers of my channel are aware of this verse and the constellations surrounding this theme. We have here an example of Ophiuchus. He's wrestling the snake, right? He has the scorpion at his heel. And then also you have Hercules, who is crushing the head of Draco, the dragon. So this is in the thematic story throughout the heavens. And this is where a lot of people spin off this virgin birth story, the serpent seed stories. So the idea is that women don't have seed, right? So therefore, Yah must be the father of the seed because women don't have seed, thus making a virgin birth. But like I said, we're going to approach this a little bit different. And I want to look at this concept of her seed and what it means biblically. And let's see, that's really what this channel is about, is to look at these things that have been handed down to us from our fathers. Let's look at the scripture. Let's let Yah explain to us what these concepts and ideas are and see if they line up, see if they match, test everything. And we're going to understand how this phrase, her seed, is used biblically. So the Hebrew word seed is zerah. It means seed or sowing or offspring. And the Greek equivalent to seed is sperma. So that could include male sperm, but it's also offspring, specifically a remnant. So the word seed, zera, sperma, connotes the idea of offspring. It's one's descendants. Obviously, the woman herself, women, they don't have seed. That comes from the male sperm. So this is where this idea of virgin births comes from, kind of, or I think at least a portion of it. But women, they do have seed in that they carry the seed. So the woman has a seed, she carries a seed, like Virgo has the seed in her hand. That's her seed. And let's look at this in the Bible and scriptures. This isn't just specific to this verse. That's a common phrase throughout scripture. We read in Genesis 24:60, and they blessed Rebekah and said unto her, Thou art our sister, be thou the mother of thousands of millions, and let thy seed possess the gate of those which hate them. So this is in reference to Jacob, Israel, right? He is her seed. Leviticus 12:2, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a woman have conceived seed, it's her seed, and a man child is born, then she shall be unclean 7 days, according to the days of separation for her infirmity shall she be unclean. So we see that the seed of a woman is her progeny. Women have seed when they become pregnant. Thus they make descendants. Look at some more examples here. Genesis 4:25. And Adam knew his wife again, second time, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth, for said she, God has appointed me another seed instead of Abel, and slew him. Numbers 5:28. And if a woman be not defiled, but be clean, then shall she be free, and shall conceive seed. So that's her seed again. And we read this in Revelation 12:17. And the dragon was enraged over the woman, and went to make war with the rest of her seed, sperma, who keep the commandments of Elohim, and have the testimony of Yahushua HaMashiach. So seed can be specific to one person, and it can also be in reference to many people, to descendants, to children. Just like Israel, Jacob, he is one person, but he's also a group of people. And so the analogy here has has a couple different layers. Seth is her seed, another seed from Eve. Her seed is her descendants. So seed means offspring. Women have offspring. They have descendants. The seed of the woman in Genesis is her immediate children, but it's also the entire human race, being that she's the first woman. So the entire human race is at enmity against the seed of the serpent. So mankind is challenged, is confronted with the seed of the serpent, the other seed. And we see this. Let's look a couple more examples here. 1 Kings 11:39. And I will for this afflict the seed of David, but not forever. So seed of David is all David's descendants. Jeremiah 33:22. As the host of heaven cannot be numbered, neither the sand of the sea measured, so will I multiply the seed of David my servant, and the Levites that minister unto him. Again, we see this concept, this idea that the seed of David is the seed of the woman. They are all descendants. Well, Romans 1:3 says concerning his son Yahushua Mashiach, which is made of the seed, the sperma of David according to the flesh. So he's the seed, the sperm comes from the sperm of David according to the flesh. According to the flesh. John 7:42. Has not Scripture said that Mashiach comes from the seed, the sperma of David, and out of the town of Bethlehem where David was? So here again, more evidence. 2 Timothy 2:8. Remember that Yahushua Mashiach of the seed, the sperma of David, was raised from the dead according to my gospel. So this could be direct sperm to sperm descendant from David, which I believe that's what it's conveying to us. Directly seed, sperm, and descendant of David. And this is really the theological conflict that many have, because the scriptures clearly say right here that the Messiah is from the seed of David. Yet many do not want to let go of the divinity Trinity stronghold and insist that he's the Son of God, Yah's seed, through a miraculous conception and not the seed from man. And we'll go over this a little more in detail on how this works, but we need to let the scriptures tell us what they say and believe, right? That's not, we don't want to insert our own ideas and concepts. Remember from part 1, we saw how the nations had this desire. There were many stories and myths about the Messiah and virgin birth concepts and who these characters are in the story. So this is going to be important for us to understand later on as we're looking at the genealogy of the Messiah and who is said to be of the seed of David, right? The Messiah has to come from that lineage, from the seed of David. So that's the conflict, is if he doesn't really come from David, is he a legitimate king? Because you have to be from the seed of David, from that bloodline. So that's something we'll resolve in this series. So, but let's look at this concept too of the Son of God. How do the scriptures portray what is a son of God? Is that just, directly God's seed into Miriam, boom, miraculous conception? Is that what it's talking about? And what about seed of the serpent? Does the devil actually have seed, like he can impregnate people? Let's look at the scriptures and see what they say. Exodus 4:22. And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus says Yahweh, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And that's the Hebrew word Bakor. So right there we see Israel. Well, we know Israel. Do people argue for Israel being created in the womb of Rebekah? I mean, I guess in a sense, because Rebekah had Jacob, and Jacob was a miraculous birth. So this is he's kind of a forerunner, but it calls him his firstborn, Bakor. Jeremiah 31:9. They shall come with weeping, and with supplications will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. So there again, he's saying Israel is my firstborn. And like I said, this runs contrary, at least to what I thought previously when, going throughout Christianity to be born again, people in the Old Testament couldn't be sons and daughters of God. It wasn't until Pentecost came and the Spirit came down upon us, and then we could get born again. That just wasn't available. I was taught you could have Spirit upon, but you couldn't have Spirit within, just kind of mixing the in versus on. And I think we need to re-examine how that's taught and understood. So we're going to examine that concept, that idea throughout this. And I thought this was cool. If you check out this word Bakor, it's a homonym, actually, Bakor with Boker. You may have heard the phrase Boker Tov, good morning. Well, there are several Hebrew and Greek words which are rendered morning. The most common in Hebrew is Boker, which occurs 180 times. It probably means the breaking forth of the light, the dawn. So Yah says, let there be light. Messiah says, I am the light of the world. He says, I am the bright and morning star. So I think that's just kind of cool that we have a homonym here of the firstborn being somewhat synonymous to morning, the morning star, the first light, right? So in the scripture, we see that in Deuteronomy 32:19, it says, and when Yahweh saw it, he abhorred them because of the provoking of his sons and of his daughters. So are these people born again? Well, he's still calling them sons and daughters. So this was prior to the church being born at Pentecost, right? Malachi 2:10, have ye not all one Father? Did not Elohim create you? Remember in Luke it talks about Adam being the son of Yah. We are these sons. Why have ye forsaken every man his brother to profane the covenant of your fathers? So we can clearly see we have many Old Testament, many Tanakh records showing us of this concept of Yah being the father to his children. This isn't an actual physical seed, but it's an allegory used to communicate relationship. Isaiah, again, more verses. I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from far and my daughters from the ends of the earth. Romans 9:25. As he saith in Hosea, I will call them my people, which were not my people, and her beloved, which was not my beloved. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it is said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living God. 1 John 3:2, beloved, now are we the sons of God. See, Israel was divorced. They were scattered. They had essentially become the lost prodigal sons. But they were brought back through Messiah. Sons and daughters brought back. Beloved, now are we the sons and daughters of Elohim. We were scattered, divorced, separated from Yah and his ways. And through the Messiah, many of us have come back to the Father, come back into the household, being brought back as children and daughters and sons of Yah. Beloved, now are we the sons of Yah. 1 Peter 1:23, being born again, not of corruptible seed, but of incorruptible. How? By the word of Yah, which lives and abides forever. The word lives and abides forever. That's how we are born again, is through that Spirit, through that word. 1 John 3:9, no one born of Yah makes a practice of sinning, for Yah's seed, his sperma, abides in him, and he cannot keep on sinning because he is born of Yah. To be born of Yah is to be born from above. His word is his seed. It's from above. It's in us. We're like the garden. It's planted. It starts to grow. So obedience to that word demonstrates our love for him and us declaring him as our Father. John chapter 1 verses 12 through 13. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become sons of Elohim, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of Elohim. Just like Messiah, it says he was born of the sperm, the seed of David, of the flesh, but reborn as the son of Elohim. He got baptized. Saul had the vision. The Father says, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." So being birthed from Yah is not physical, it's spiritual. We only have a glimpse of what is to come. We have that down payment. But when we are resurrected, when we are given spiritual bodies, that will be the real rebirth. When we are allowed to enter into the kingdom. No one enters in that kingdom unless they're born again, unless they're spiritually resurrected. Malachi 2:15. Did he not make them one with a portion of the Spirit in their union? And what was the one God seeking? Godly offspring. Elohim Zerah. So guard yourselves in your spirit, and let none of you be faithless to the wife of your youth. Psalm 89:26 through 27. He shall cry unto me, Thou art my Father, my God, my Elohim, and the rock of my salvation. And I will make him my firstborn, Bakor, higher than the kings of the earth. So we have here in Malachi 2:15, the context is the wife and husband being one, producing godly seed. Spiritually speaking, we are his heritage, his offspring, his sons and daughters of the Most High. Godly seed. Yah doesn't literally have seed or offspring because he's spirit. It's an allegory speaking in carnal terms so that we can understand spiritual truths of a familial relationship between a father and his descendants. Being a son of Yah is about being obedient. If someone is disobedient to the instructions, they're not acting as sons of obedience, but rather as sons and daughters of disobedience. And let's look at this in Scripture of sons of disobedience. 1 John 3:8. He that commits sin is of the devil, for the devil sins from the beginning. For this purpose the Son of Elohim was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. Ephesians 2:1 through 2. And you hath he quickened, who were dead in trespasses and sins, where in time past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now works in the children of disobedience. So this is a spiritual thing, children of disobedience. The word huios means son, and it's translated as children, and can be understood as a descendant, an offspring. So we have children of obedience, and then we have children of disobedience. There's really only two kinds. Yah's people abandoned his Torah, his instructions, and they were disobedient. Therefore, they walked according to the ages. That word course of this world is the word ages, and the course is like the sun traveling through the Mazaroth, correct? So the sages distorted the ages, and that was declared in the Mazaroth, and they gave us a twisted zodiac. It's the path of this world that leads to destruction. They corrupted the ancient path with their counterfeit zodiac. Jubilees 19:28 through 29. And the spirit of Mastema shall not rule over thee, or over thy seed, to turn thee from the Lord, who is thy God, from henceforth forever. And may Yahweh Elohim be a father to thee, and thou the firstborn son, and send to the people away. Deuteronomy 32:17 says that they sacrificed to demons that were no gods, to gods they had never known, to new gods that had come recently, whom your fathers had never dreaded. So Jubilees, what's considered extra biblical books, they give us a little bit of more insight into the devil sinning from the beginning and the demonic forces that ruled this counterfeit zodiac. And a lot of that's in Enoch as well, and a lot of scriptures from the Tanakh, or from the Brit Hadashah, those concepts come out of Jubilees and out of the book of Enoch, and they were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So this word mastema is the demon who appears in the book of Jubilees. He pleads with Yah to permit the spirits of the dead Nephilim remain on the planet on earth, so that they can corrupt and lead men astray prior to judgment, because there was great wickedness in men. God condemned all the demons to descend in condemnation except for a tenth who could remain. So maybe you're familiar with, I think that's in Peter, where he talks about those in chains, still in chains. And it says here, in the Zadokite fragments and the Dead Sea Scrolls, he is the angel of disaster, the father of all evil, and the flatterer of God. He is said to have become a fallen angel. He first appears in literature of the Second Temple period as a personification of the Hebrew word mastema, which means hatred, hostility, enmity, and persecution. So he's that enmity against the seed. Hosea 9:8, the prophet is the watchman of Ephraim with Elohim, yet a fowler snare is on all his ways, and hatred, mastema, in the house of his Elohim. So we see here that the word mastema used in Hosea is of false prophets who trap their prey as a bird in a snare. And no doubt has that happened. 1 Samuel 2:12, now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. They know not Yahweh. So they are physically sons of Eli, but spiritually they are sons of Belial. That you could say that they are the serpent seed. The word Belial means worthlessness. It means ungodly, wicked men. So that's clear that they're physically sons of a human, but spiritually sons of Belial, because they're disobedient humans, ungodly men, worthless. Proverbs 19:27 through 28. Cease, my son, to hear the instruction that causes to err from the words of knowledge, and ungodly Belial witnesses scorneth judgment, and the mouth of the wicked devour iniquity. Ungodly, disobedient, liars, false prophets, all are spiritually serpent seed men, following their father, the father of lies. Psalm 58, 1 through 5. Do you indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do ye judge uprightly, O ye sons of men? Yea, in heart ye work wickedness. Yea, through weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they are born, speaking lies. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear, which will not listen to the voice of charmers, charming never so wisely. So it makes me think of snake charmers who listen and obey their father, the serpent. And you can see that throughout many different cultures with icons and stuff of the serpent. People worship, they follow the serpent, and they are therefore serpent seed, not physically, but spiritually. And I will say that there are probably spiritual manifestations can happen in the natural realm upon some of these people. So are these actual lizard people, or is it just a spiritual thing, and maybe there's some overreach from just the corruption that's in their system, but they are not physically born from a spirit or a lizard, John 8:43, why do you not understand what I say? It is because you cannot hear or bear to hear my word. You are of your father the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. So that's how they are children of the devil. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Here in Matthew 3:7, John says, but when he saw many of the Pharisees and Sadducees coming to his baptism, he said to them, you brood of vipers, who warned you to flee from the wrath to come? So children of disobedience are serpent seed. They follow their father of lies and not of truth. John the Baptist called them a brood, which is an offspring of vipers. And I don't want to belabor this anymore. I think we get the point that obedience to Yah equates to sons and daughters of Yah. And disobedience translates to sons of the devil, the prince of the power of the air, the lofty one, Beelzebub, prince of demons, lord of flies, so on and so forth. So, just to recap, we looked here, what does the seed of the woman, serpent seed, mean? Seed of Yah. We saw from Scripture that the seed of the woman is the seed she carries from man. And we also saw how the seed of Yah and the seed of the serpent are not literal physical seeds, but rather convey seeds of obedience versus disobedience. So all mankind, every human being that has walked on the face of this earth, including our Messiah, is the seed of man, comes from the seed of man, and is declared either seed of the serpent or seed of Yah, dependent upon their obedience. In the next video, we're going to take a closer look at what the virgin is biblically and how it is defined. We're going to examine what it means to know a man, and we'll get a better understanding of cyclical biblical patterns throughout Scripture regarding virgin births. All of these things, what we're doing is we're building layer upon layer, brick upon brick, going through precept after precept, line upon line, and we're building this foundation so that we can step into the gospel records, and everything's just going to come together, and it's really going to make a lot of sense when we go through this, putting everything that we've learned to thus far. So part 3, we'll review biblically what's a virgin, what does it mean to know a man, and then we'll look at barren women throughout the Scriptures and these biblical patterns. I pray that this video blessed you. I hope that you'll give us a like, give us a share. Please put in a comment if you see something that you disagree with or didn't understand, or something was confusing. Please put that in the comments. We'll hash it out. Sure love you. We'll see you on the next one. Shalom.